Hello and welcome to Sport on 7 this week. Loads to get through on this week's show. Here is a little bit of what we have coming up over the next 30 minutes. We'll be talking to Ron Atkinson about the Premier League season that is about to finish. Also, of course, Sir Alex Ferguson we will discuss. I'm also at Dubai Sports City, where they are announcing a busy summer of plans. And we'll catch up with the UAE rugby squad. Plus, Chris McCarty, as ever, is with me for a roundup of all of the local sport over the last week. Now, what a week of football it has been. We'll start with football. Before the breaking news about Sir Alex Ferguson, I caught up with Ron Atkinson, the former manager of Manchester United and the man Sir Alex replaced at Old Trafford in 1986. I did speak to Ron before all of that news and also before a busy Premier League schedule, but we spoke about the Premier League season to date and what's still to come. Well, Ron, welcome back to Dubai. Just saying, I can't believe it's a year ago that we were all here for the Euros, of course, last summer, but it's been a busy year of football since then. The Premier League has been an outstanding season once again. Let's start at the bottom of the table. Former club of yours, Aston Villa. How do you rate their chances of staying up?
I think they'll be all right now. I think the last two games, beating Sunderland 6-1 and, of course, winning at Norwich 2-1, that's given them a big lift. They've actually played over the last few games. They've actually played well, and I think of the teams at the bottom, they're probably playing better than any of the other teams. So, still got two difficult fixtures. They've got to play, I think it's Chelsea, and then, if they didn't get anything out of that, they could find themselves going to Wigan, needing at least a point. So they're still not clear, but I would fancy their chances now very strongly.
You touched on it there. They are one of the teams at the bottom who are grinding out results. Yeah. Wigan know how to do that at the end of a season as well. So who would you see out of that group? Sunderland, Newcastle in there as well, who look like they're in danger. Who could you see going down?
Well, it's a toss-up. One day you think, it's them, then the next day you think it's somebody else. Honestly, don't know. I think a lot will depend. It'll change from game to game. I mean, Fulham all of a sudden are in trouble. Nobody's ever mentioned Fulham, but I noticed Fulham, if they lost the last two games and other clubs clawed the way in, they might be the one, because I've always said there's always one team that gets on the glass mountain. That appears in the relegation zone before they realise it. The fact we Wigan and one or two of the others, they've been digging it out all season. They know what they have to do. All of a sudden, somebody that gets in where the last game of the season will find it, might have a problem. But I honestly think it'll come from Sunderland, Newcastle, or maybe Norwich will get one of those, the third relegation spot.
At the other end of the table, of course, another former club of yours, Manchester United, and another title, their 20th, 13th Premier League title as well. How do you rate their season, and where does this title rate compared to all the others?
Well, they've won in a canter. I actually think the Premiership isn't as good for quality, and I've not thought for a year or two. But the teams you would have expected to have made a challenge, i.e. Manchester City and Chelsea, really haven't got their act together. I mean, Manchester City, I think, have played on the belief that we're champions, and all we have to do is throw the shirts out. All of a sudden, they've been found wanting. I would certainly expect them and Chelsea next season to make a much stronger challenge. Because I bet Fergie, I was talking to Fergie today, I bet he can't believe his luck that they've won it so easy. He'll believe they should have won it, but I bet he can't believe they've won in a canter.
Hey Ron, we're at a quiz night tonight, so a question for you. First Premier League goal scorer, who was it?
Are you serious? Brian Dean, Sheffield United.
Easy, it's too easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And finally, of course, here in Dubai...
First televised goal then, for Sky.
Teddy Sheringham.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're back in Dubai, of course. It was a year ago when you were here for the Euros, but enjoying your time. What are you up to this time?
I love it. I've done a couple of golf days for a pal of mine in Abu Dhabi, and it's been more of a holiday this time. But love coming to Dubai. Actually, people say, "Here's your favourite place in the world," and I hold my hand up and say, "It's here." Love it.
Now, naturally, I spoke to Big Ron about the FA Cup final, because when he was in Dubai, it was a week or so before that FA Cup final at Wembley Stadium. He said Manchester City would win, however, thought Wigan Athletic would give a good account of themselves. of course, because the pressure wasn't really on them, and they really didn't. They won 1-0 at Wembley Stadium. Ron is now back in the UK, but I did speak to him on the phone shortly after it was announced that the Manchester United boss, Sir Alex Ferguson, was to retire and that the club would be looking for a new manager for the first time since Big Ron was sacked in 1986. He was surprised as anybody. He even said to me in Dubai 48 hours earlier that he thought Ferguson would be around for a few more years to come.
He's going to be staying there for a while, isn't he? I imagine he wants another Champions League trophy before he even considers leaving that club.
Yeah, I would think so. I'd be surprised if he's not still doing. I'd give him at least 2 more years at least. You know, I think he'll stay there for another couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the news took us all by surprise. David Moyes then has been appointed the new Manchester United manager. The fellow Scot and the 8th Scot to lead Manchester United will leave his role at Everton Football Club and take over as Fergie's replacement for next season. He has signed a 5-year deal and comes with Sir Alex Ferguson's backing. In his time at Old Trafford, Ferguson won 38 trophies, including 13 Premier League titles and 2 Champions Leagues. Of course, we'll bring you more on that and news on Manchester City manager Roberto Mancini possibly leaving the Etihad Stadium later on in Sport on 7 this week. That's it for part 1, though. Plenty more on the way next, including a chat with the UAE rugby squad after another Asian 5 Nations defeat. We're back in a moment on Sport on 7.